Welcome to Buckets from the Tommy John Home Studios. I'm Matt Moore, senior NBA writer for the Action Network, joined by Joe Dellera and Jim Turvey, the future Jays. This is your Futures Look and your Best Bets episode for Monday, December 2nd in the association. Hope everyone had a safe, healthy, and very full Thanksgiving if you celebrated. Had a great time at my house. Everything came out great. I didn't poison anyone by putting my Cornish hens in the sous vide. So that's a win. Everything came out great. Got nothing but 5-star reviews from my guests, which, speaking of 5-star reviews, you should leave this podcast a 5-star review. If you're a longtime listener and you've always been listening to the show because you're an NBA bettor, take a second. We're one of the only podcasts you're going to find giving you daily NBA betting podcasts throughout the week. Show your appreciation by giving us a 5-star review and a like and subscribe over at youtube.com/the Action Network, where you can find a video version of this podcast. Let me know what your favorite bet was the weekend of Thanksgiving, because there was a lot of action in the NBA, obviously a lot of NFL, lots of great stuff. Let me know what your best bet was over the weekend in the comments over at youtube.com/the Action Network. We're going to talk about the Cup today. That's where we're going to be our futures look, because this is I'm sad. This is our last group play night. It feels like it's gone by so quickly. Joe Dellera on Twitter and in the Action Network app at Joe Dellera. You can catch him on the Cash That podcast. Jim Turvey of Roto Grinders. You can catch him at Turvey Bets in the Action Network app and on Twitter. Fellas, we'll start here. I spent this afternoon going through tiebreakers, which I really should have done last week. And next year I'll be well prepped for all tiebreaker nonsense because it fits perfectly with my brand. The East is easy to understand. The West is a complete fucking shit show. But the East, I think, is pretty simple. We already have look-ahead lines for these games. These were up this afternoon. The Magic are at the Knicks. The Knicks are -6 look-ahead. That winner is going to take Group A. The Magic has a 32-point lead for wild card if they lose. The Knicks, on the other hand, trail Detroit by 13. If the Knicks win, they don't need tiebreaker. If they lose, they need Detroit to lose by 13 more than the Knicks do. So if the Magic win by 5, the Pistons would have to lose by 18. If the Magic lose, they need to lose by less than 60 in order to keep their spot in all of these types of things in the wild card position in the Eastern Conference. Meanwhile, Bucks are at Pistons. Pistons are -4 on the look ahead. The winner takes Group B. If the Bucks win, they win the group. If they lose and the Magic lose, they're going to need a miracle because the Magic are up 32 in point differential on them. If the Bucks lose and the Knicks lose, the Bucks need to lose by less than 7 to avoid the Celtics passing them for tiebreaker. Got it? Does that all make sense?
Get it,
so
got it.
If
good.
the Pistons, yeah. So if the Pistons were to pull off the upset, the Bucks have got to keep it within margin if they lose. There's a whole bunch of ways for here. The most likely outcome based on the odds and just common sense here is the Bucks win and get the number 1. The Knicks get the 2. The Magic get the 3rd. The 4th is the Hawks, and then we have Hawks at Bucks, Magic at Knicks, and that's where we're at. But Joe Dellera, you actually have a best bet because you are once again going back to the well.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a really wild scenario, and saw somebody on Twitter put it out. Jim alerted me a little bit, but the Boston Celtics there was a 41-1 to make the quarterfinals. I got it at 24-1, put it out there, 19-1. The books keep putting it out there, taking it off, putting it out there, taking it off. It's just a bad line to make the quarterfinals. And it was basically what you needed is the Bucks -6 and the Magic on the money line. And that's what it is. And the Celtics make the quarterfinals. I love the Knicks. The -6, I'm a little surprised about. I think it's a little heavy.
That's a big number.
I think it's a little heavy. And the Bucks look great. So the way I'm seeing this, Detroit, I think, is honestly a little overvalued. I think the Bucks -6 number is fair. I think it's a good number. I would bet the Bucks. The Magic on the money line is probably, I think, on the Tuesday slate, your best value on the board. And honestly, I hope for that number Paolo doesn't play, because they are moving and grooving, as Clyde would say, and they look great. Like, without Paolo, you add him into the scenario, I don't like whatever. Like, we're not a hater group over here. Paolo is a great player, whatever. They know what they're doing right now. They know what the formula is. You add him in, a huge usage player. I don't know if you beat the Knicks with that type of offense that they've got going on there when you have to add in such a high usage player. I think the Knicks still have the edge.
I don't know. The way that the Knicks play, I think pretty much any offense can beat that Knicks defense.
Well, I mean, look, like, any offense can beat the Knicks defense, but not any defense can beat the Knicks offense. Let's put it that way. So, like, the Knicks offense is chugging. I think they skated by the Hornets, but it was also the end of a 6-game road trip. You know, they had to deal with the Pelicans today. They're going to be regrouped, ready at home for the Orlando Magic. I think that this is a game, like, look, I'm a Knicks fan. We haven't won shit in years. This is a big deal for us. Like, we got to win this game. I think Tibbs going to have them locked in and ready for this game. So I think the 6 is a heavy number, but I think the Knicks should definitely be favored in this game. But that doesn't mean that the other number on, you know, Boston to make the quarterfinals isn't a bad number based on, you know, what we're looking at. We need Bucks -6, Magic money line. 19-1 is just way out of pocket.
Yeah.
So for reference, well, there is another. Well, no, because you're already at 23. So the Celtics are locked at +23. They've completed their 4 games. They're locked in at +23. If you're wondering what we're talking about with the -6,
can I hop in there really quick, Matt, just to point out on that Celtics +23, we got to see some of the crazy NBA Cup shenanigans. I put in a Celtics fourth quarter regular spread and then an alt spread. Listen, I was in the middle of a work day. I was like, oh, this is a fun little cup thing.
Dare you victory lap this? I'm in the action Slack
who
being
works
like,
on Black Friday?
Like, I was in the action Slack being like, all right, how do we bet this? Like, we know that the Celtics need to run this up. How do we bet this?
Listen, you always say it. You got to have the notifications on, man. You got to have those notifications on.
I got him, but I'd already played the alts as Brandon Anderson suggested to me. Go ahead.
So the fourth quarter, literally, the Celtics were up. I believe it was that they were up 5 with 1 second left. They call a timeout, drop an amazing sideline play. I think it was Hauser. Was it Sam Hauser? Like fading away corner 3 to go up 8, which could be very important. Like we said, that +23 gets them right in that realm. So it was so cool to see one of these. We always talk about these really fun edges that we love in the NBA Cup with like funky things. The fourth quarter script for Boston was always going to be there. If they were winning, they were going to try and run up the score. If they're losing, which they were, I think they were either losing or tied going. I think they're up 1 going in the fourth quarter. It was a close game. They were going to put the foot on the gas. And then literally with 1 second to go, they're drawing up ATOs to get a 3, even though they're up 5. So it was like the perfect culmination of our little cup edges. And it played out perfectly. I loved it. It was awesome.
I also want to note here that the bet on the Celtics, and by the way, it's down to 10-1 at DraftKings. Thanks again for letting me know, Joe. That the other thing here is it's not just a parlay of Magic money line Bucks -6. It's actually like it's a parlay of Magic money line Bucks -6 or Magic money line Pistons minus.
I think 8.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I think it's like
it's
one
a
more
weird.
the other direction.
There's a weird middle available.
7. Actually, only 7. So
okay.
because the Bucks are 29, Celtics are 23.
Yeah.
So if it's either one of those outcomes, if you get the Magic money line, either one of those outcomes, as long as Bucks Pistons does not end inside of 6, the Celtics can make the quarterfinals.
Yeah, I wish there were. I mean, I guess what you could do is there are some ways, because I've been asked about how do you hedge this, because they were like, this number's way off. What do we do with this? It's hard because there's not a lot of availability for what you can do. But basically, like, you could play, like, if you could parlay these things, like Magic, moneyline, and then like the either outcome where it's like either team by 6. That would probably that could kind of be a hedge if you could parlay them, because like you don't really want to parlay them straight, because like you wind up losing and it just is not going to bring you anything home. So it does create like a really interesting scenario, but at least it's relatively straightforward in terms of what could happen. Like there's not too many options here.
Can I ask why? So the quarterfinals, I think, is a good bet.
Yeah.
But if we're gonna go that far, why not bet Tatum at 25-1 to win Cup MVP?
Because Jaylen Brown exists.
Okay, so I was on Jaylen Brown early last year. So I bet Luka Western Conference Finals MVP, Jaylen Eastern Conference Finals MVP, and then use that to bet on Jaylen Brown Finals MVP.
Yes.
And the reason was like all the entire year I was like, I think Jaylen's their best player. Like I legitimately think he's their best player, and having Porzingis unlock something. And Porzingis is back, but that hasn't slowed Tatum down. Like this is a different Tatum.
No,
and
he
Jaylen's banged up
this year.
So like I think I'm gonna do the 10-1, but I'm definitely, since my Anthony Davis is dead because the Lakers are schmucks.
Yeah,
I'm going to add. There's actually a 2,800 at DraftKings. I'm gonna add on Jason Tatum.
And that, to me, the Celtics bet is more that set, like it's clearly just like kind of something is not computing for them, because like you said the Celtics to win it. What do you say they are to win it right now?
Yeah, wait, I was just thinking about that. That's even better. I think that's actually better than
60-1 before.
Okay, that's good for you. But right now, right now, on this edition of Dead Numbers Tonight, Celtics are 17-1 at DraftKings right now.
Yeah, so the 19-1, just like for some reason there's a lingering fault in their calculation, because like if they're 17-1 to win it and 1,900 to make the quarterfinals, the broken number is the 19-1. The 17-1, I want to wait to see who gets through and what the matchups are. I think Milwaukee's interesting. Milwaukee has kind of struggled on the road though, so I do think that pointing out that the Detroit side of it also gives you an out is important, because Milwaukee has looked very good lately. They've also been on like a massive homestand. I think there's one road game mixed in there. They really haven't had like a really big road test in a while. Detroit, by if we look at dunks and threes, they're kind of near 500 record isn't maybe quite as good as it looks, but they just got Cade back. I think it should be a pretty good game, and I do think there is a possibility of unfortunately it fitting into that like either team 6 and then the parlay's dead, and either way Boston can't get through. So I want to see like if Boston does sneak through and it's with Detroit and Atlanta and Orlando, it's like, oh boy, this is like a walk. I wish I grabbed it, but there are harder teams out there that could give them if it is Milwaukee, New York, and Atlanta, like Milwaukee and New York can definitely give Boston a little bit of trouble.
A little bit.
See, I like Orlando way better. I like Orlando way better in that matchup. Like, I don't want the Celtics facing Orlando. Like, young, scrappy, like think about last year. Young, scrappy, hungry team trying to play for something, right? Like, you're the defending champions. You're in Vegas. You feel great about yourself. This is exactly what happened last year. The Pacers snuck up on them and bit them.
Yeah. I mean, I think in a vacuum, New York is probably like the worst team for Boston to face, like as a homer, but like whatever. But like the offense, the offense is just so good. Like that's the exact scenario you don't want. Is like
Orlando's
super
defense
high-powered offense.
Destroys guards, but the Knicks defense is like created to stop wing. Like I think New York is the tougher matchup for Boston based on the positionality of it.
Boys, what are you talking? Look, Mikal Bridges got benched.
Yeah.
And they're still good
today.
Put McBride on him.
And
it's not like McBride's not good.
They're not built to stop wings. They're not built to stop a cold. They're not built to stop a stiff breeze. Your defense is atrocious.
Don't put your in this. You know I'm the biggest Knicks hater. Yeah, the offense.
Joe, you can't win a shootout with the
It's
Celtics.
one game. It's one game.
I don't care. I don't want no.
That's the problem. But that's the thing, though. That's why
number. I bet the stupid Towns number because you wanted it to.
But that's the point of the NBA Cup is that normally in the playoffs, like when they put all these statistics out, it's like the playoffs, the better team wins statistically because you play it out over the variance. In the NBA Cup, it's one game.
Yeah, and I can't sit here and be like, well, look what happened to them last year versus Indiana, and then be like, well, the Knicks don't play any defense. Like the Pacers don't play, you know? So I get it. Yeah. I get it. I get it. Yeah. I will say, though, that I do want to ask this question, though. Celtics at 17-1 or Tatum at 28-1?
I can't. I just cannot buy an individual player on the Celtics winning any award because I feel like they just don't like anybody. They just win, and it's just like, who are we gonna give it to? And then there's no real consensus. Like I'm just gonna have Tatum's amazing. Tatum's been awesome this year.
I'm gonna split a unit on. I'm gonna put half on each. That's what
I think, Matt. I don't think that's crazy. I'm with you this year that Tatum is at a different level, but I do struggle because Joe's right that this is the ultimate of like singular games, and like even though you're like theoretically weighing these, you know, the 4 games from
you have to have a strong game, and if you were not good in the last game, you won't get it.
Exactly.
Right.
And,
so like if Jalen goes for. If the Celtics win and Jalen goes for 35 in the final, but even if Tatum has had the most points,
yes,
in the entirety of cup play, it won't matter because you can't win if you don't play well in the final. Okay,
yeah, 100%.
Okay, I think this is good stuff though. As we continue to throw money at the Celtics, who are like, we're like, how can we bet the Celtics who are currently not in the thing
and actually need like a fair amount of things to happen?
Yeah,
it's not like a lot of stuff. It's just not a crazy amount of things. So it's kind of one of those things. It's like it's kind of jacked up. And we're just like,
it's great betting content. I love it. It's great.
The quarter, and for the record, I like the quarterfinals bet much more than the actual like the Tatum and the
quarterfinals bet right now. So out of whack.
The quarterfinals bet is just broken. Yeah,
it's so wrong. Yeah.
Okay. The West is a mess. I'm trying to figure out like what you need to know. What you probably need to know is that I'll shoot to the end of this, and the most likely outcome here is that these 4 teams make it. Houston, Oklahoma City, the Mavericks, and Golden State. Houston and Golden State are already in. They've locked. Okay, they're secured. The Mavericks are plus 41 in point differential, giving them it's going to take just like the most incomprehensible series of events. Although, like, I will say, like, that sounds crazy. Like, plus 41 does sound like completely bonkers insane. But the Mavericks have to play another game versus Memphis. So, like, if they lose by 25, now all of a sudden it gets a little interesting.
I mean, if they lose by 12... and the Suns win by like 15, that makes up 27 right there. And they're in.
They're not as secure, I think, as it appears based on the fact that like the Group B is very contentious right now.
Yeah.
And that, for those of you that are like, guys, I don't know who the fucking Group B in the NBA Cup is. That would be the San Antonio. It's Spurs are 2-1, Suns are 2-1, and they play on Tuesday. The kicker is that the Thunder are 2-1 and they play the Jazz.
Yeah.
The Spurs have tiebreaker over OKC somehow. And so what happens here is if the Spurs beat the Suns,
they win the group.
And it's the Spurs instead of the Thunder. But you have to think that they are in fact
not.
They are dogs. They're at the Suns. Suns are minus 6.5.
Man, I want to bet are at the Kings. Sorry, I'll let you keep it. I'll let you keep going, but I want to circle back to Suns for a little bit.
Rockets at Kings. Kings are -1. So the Rockets are at the top of the group. They don't actually have that much to play for because they can't fall out. Kings are -1. The Warriors are at the Nuggets. The Nuggets are -2.5. That one actually could have some pretty big impacts on who goes where for seeding. But again, Warriors are locked. And then, like I mentioned, Spurs are at Suns. Suns -6.5. Jazz at Thunder. Thunder -14.5 on the look ahead line.
Yeah.
So the issue with Phoenix, Jim, is that Phoenix lost to OKC. So even if Phoenix beats the Spurs, if the Thunder beat the Jazz at home with 500,000 per player on the line, like if they were to win the thing, the Suns are going to need the Jazz to beat the Thunder, and that's why I can't get there on Phoenix.
Or they can get there through the tiebreaker if they really go to town on the Spurs, the Spurs have been awesome. But if they are able, if the Spurs kind of fold, they win by, like I said, like they win by 20. Now the Mavs, if they lose to Memphis, that is very much up in the air. So I don't think they are dead, and I really want to get on this Phoenix team. I think they are so legit. They're 10-2 with Durant in the lineup. They face the 6th hardest schedule this year. They have been excellent, and they're a little bit under the radar, I think, because of those games that Durant missed. They really were terrible in them, and Beal was out for most of that as well. When they've been healthy, they have been one of the top teams in the league. I don't think it's out of the question. Unfortunately, what I was finding is that the prices were also baking in that it wasn't out of the question. You have here, of course, I'm once again in a state where I can't actually shop these. Durant on on DraftKings is 50-1. He's not even listed on your screenshot of FanDuel. Is he because if he was a crazy number, I do think I would get in at a crazy number on Durant MVP, because he's been playing really, really well for Phoenix. Like, he's below Booker, and they have Booker at a number that I was like, man, like Phoenix is semi-dead. Why is this number so short? So I was kind of like, man, I want to get on Phoenix, but I want a really long number. Do you have the Durant FD?
50-1 on FanDuel.
Yeah. 51.
See, that's just not long. That's kind of crazy. And it tells me that, honestly, maybe the other people think that Phoenix is really strong. I really wish that they had more of a chance. That Mavericks blowout of the I think it was the Pelicans that they really blew out, kind of swung this tiebreaker. But I'm intrigued by Phoenix. I just wish the long bets were a little bit longer.
I think you could get enough value if you bet you may as well bet, because Phoenix is plus 19 right now, right? And they have to beat realistically, the way you have to look at it, you have to say OKC is going to beat Utah, right?
Yeah.
So you basically have to say Phoenix is going to win by 20.
Yeah.
Like, just bet that.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's you're not going to get a great number, but like, if you think that KD can win it, right? Like, just bet that and then roll it over. Like, if Phoenix gets through, just take the whole thing and roll it on to KD.
Well, that's the part that cracks me up, is like, we talk about when the pricing is bad for this. Like, it is often bad. And this is one of the times it's priced poorly, but it's like screwing us over. It's like the fact that Phoenix right now is 19-1 is like a terrible price, but I want them to be the other kind of terrible price. Like, there's no way on planet Earth they should be 19-1. Like, you could probably get like a 12-1 on them to win by 20. And that's just to get into the quarterfinal. So this is terribly priced, just unfortunately in the wrong direction for me, who wants to be on the Phoenix side of things. So you're right, Joe. It's you bet a Phoenix big alt, and then once they get in, see what the price isn't going to be all that much different.
Playing, like, because they basically can only, the way I see it, they can only make it as the 4, right? So if they're the 4, they basically have to play Houston. Which I would love.
You got a Utah money line there, Matt?
I would love Phoenix.
Yeah, agreed.
What I want to say on the tiebreaker is, this is what I don't, and it hurts me to my core. I don't have the answer for this. I really didn't want to bother NBA PR on a Sunday after Thanksgiving with, hey, can you go get, because there's like 3 guys that know the tiebreaker systems, and every time I email, they have to go ask these people and chase them down. What I don't know is, so Phoenix wins, goes to 3-1.
Yeah.
If Golden State and or Houston, if Houston were to get blown out with an unbelievable margin, or like lose by 20, let's just say that, lose by 20, Suns win by 11, then Suns pass Rockets for tiebreaker. I can't find any notes in any of the NBA's official language that says that group winner gets automatic seeding once we get out of knockout. once we get out of group stage.
I see the issue.
So what I'm telling you is this is why Houston and Golden State actually matter. Is if the Kings were to blow out Houston, that can change who they match up with dramatically and whether or not they have home court, because the quarterfinals take place still on home court and then they go to Vegas. I need to double check that too. But regardless, like this can alter who faces who pretty dramatically. So when you say like the Suns can only be the 4, that's not actually true by every measure that I've found.
Fair.
Because it's group play. The tiebreakers are head-to-head in group, point differential in group stage. That's the next one. And then it's total points. And so there's like a scenario here where Phoenix winds up with like a 1 seed. Like there's actually a scenario here where like Phoenix winds like, I guess there's actually a scenario here as insane as this is that, like you could wind up with the Spurs as like the 1. Like the Spurs could absolutely get like the 1 seed.
I think we gave the Spurs over the summer too. So we're never losing.
Dead. Okay, next up on dead numbers tonight.
Wait, speaking of dead numbers tonight, we semi wrote off Houston last time. Do we want to revise that at all? That OKC win today was mighty legit.
It was a really good win at home. It was a really good win. I'm like, and like I have a bunch of stuff coming out for other websites tomorrow about Houston. I've written a lot about them today, and like, I think Houston can make the Western Conference Finals. If you gave me a double-digit number for them to make, like a 4-digit number for them to make the conference finals, I would take it.
Do you liken Houston to make the conference finals as like one of the like the Hawks when they made the conference finals, like as like an anomaly?
That's a good comp.
It's like they don't belong there. They made it there, and like not that they don't belong there, but it's like you would never really pick them to be there,
right.
But like the number might be right for them to make it there.
Right, and like here's the thing, like it's not that the Hawks weren't frauds.
No, they were good.
Like they were a really good team, but the problem is just like eventually you run into LeBron James.
Yeah, and that's
right. And if I can tell, I can see it behind Jim's bearded smile. That Jim wants to make the point that there isn't a LeBron James in the Western Conference.
No, it's Jalen Brunson.
No, well, the point I want to make is I think the Hawks offense didn't translate as well to the postseason. I think this Houston defense translates really, really well to tough playoff and certainly cup environments.
But their offense doesn't.
I agree. I think that is ultimately my hesitancy.
It's like it's a game. Okay, it's a game 6. They're in Houston. It's 3-2, and it's Denver, OKC, Phoenix,
and Jim wants the ball in Tari Eason's hands.
Right,
and like, it's gonna be in his hands because it's gonna be in someone else's hands. He's gonna steal it.
Yeah,
right. And so, like that to me is the kind of thing here where, and like I do think legitimately that there's a reason. Oh, Houston needs to make the superstar trade. They just don't need to trade for Jimmy Butler or Kevin Durant. They get to be more patient now and be like, I'm gonna wait for the next James Harden. Yeah. Like wait for that trade. It honestly, it would be really funny, but I hope that this comes back around and get to play this podcast back. It'd be really funny if it was Jalen Williams, if it was J-Dub, third guy on OKC. Get to the point.
That's wow. You just broke my brain a little bit.
It would fit.
J-Dub's ready to make the leap. J-Dub's ready to make the leap. It's 2 years from now. His rookie extension's coming up. OKC's having to make hard decisions. That would
be really funny.
That'd second apron. They got to pay Chet Holmgren.
The J-Dub led Rockets missed 29 straight threes in a playoff game.
Yes. Versus, I guess, not Cooper Flag. I'm trying to think.
What's the equivalent?
Dylan Harper's Golden State Warriors or something. All right. So the last thing I think on the cup is we got the Steph Curry position. I gave that out. I bet that's good.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else in the Western Conference that we kind of look at for MVP and go? Because the thing I think for the cup, Jim, I will tell you that I think Houston's live. Like they're live, and the problem is that I didn't think that they were as live as they are, and now it's like, them to make the finals is plus 235.
Yeah, I'm looking a different direction. And ironically, it's I was saying I want to play Phoenix because they might not be dead in the point differential. It's the other team coming out of the wild card who's the far more likely one. I can't believe I'm here. This is like a repeat of last year where I'm like, how am I talking myself into the Mavericks and Luka, who I hate and think are semi fraudulent, and like I was pinging the Slack. Trying to make fun of Luka today with how well the Mavs have been doing without him and then struggling when he's back. But listen, Luka at plus 2,200, when they're a very good look to make the quarterfinals at least. And then we know in these big stages, as much as I like to rag on Luka, he is a phenomenal player in these type of environments. He is a very good player. I still don't love his style of play overall. I don't love them as like a title team, but in the NBA Cup, and the other thing with him, we talked when we were talking Boston, do you want Tatum? But one game, a lot can happen. Lucas just always has so many stats. It's part of why I don't love about his game. He just has so many stats every game. It's hard to imagine him not over the course of the semifinals and finals being the Mav with the biggest, most impressive stats. So Luka at plus 2,200 at DraftKings right now. He's plus 1,200 at FanDuel. I think that number is closer to accurate, even though I honestly am intrigued by even that number. I think the Mavs in the West, I have questions about OKC. We just talked through Houston. The Warriors, we haven't touched on a lot, but Matt, before we started recording, you said, and I agree with you 100%, that the NBA Cup came about 2 weeks too late for the Warriors. They were really playing well a little while ago. They've looked pretty shaky of late. I think that the Mavs very well, and again, this is not coming from any sort of homerism, trust me, because I am usually the low person on the Mavs and Luka, but plus 2,200 on Luka to be Cup MVP is just I think kind of a crazy number when they look pretty well positioned to get in, and then I'm skeptical of some of these teams.
We only do dinner bets, heads up here on Buckets, because Brandon Anderson's a coward. I will bet you one dinner straight up. Kyrie Irving, I'll take Kyrie, you take Luka. If neither wins, it's push.
Can I tell you, before you make this bet, can I tell you what Luka is averaging against the Rockets, Thunder, and Warriors over the last 2 seasons?
Tell me.
30.7 points, 9.5 rebounds, 9.1 assists in 16 games.
I mean, sure.
Are we throwing in appetizers, gentlemen?
I mean, sure. Sure. So like I said, I want 2-1. And Jim can have
a dinner bet. That would be fun. I will agree to a dinner bet on that.
All right. I'll take, because I do legitimately think, I will say this, I just don't think that Luke is in, like, I just don't think I fully acknowledge everything that you said.
Yeah.
And I need Luka to get his shit together and get healthy because I have so much on him for MVP for preseason. I've thrown him in a million FanDuel parlays. I need him to get going. But Kyrie's legitimately been awesome. Like he's just been great.
He's been great.
Like I'm the resident Kyrie hater. And I'm just like, he's been sensational. He's just been phenomenal. So
this Mavs team gets us loving our hates, Matt. They make no sense.
It's true. Okay, let's do best bets for Monday in the association. Let's go to that. Joe Dellera, what's your best bet for Monday in the NBA?
There's no individual prop out right now, but I like Anthony Davis over honestly anything that's under 30 points against this in this matchup on Monday night.
Okay. Jim, what do you like on the Monday slate?
I got moneyline for you. That's kind of a fun dart toss. And then I've got a player prop for you. I'm going to go Pelicans plus 400. And I'm going to go Dennis Schroeder over 21.5 points.
What? What?
I knew you would love that. I knew you would love that.
Pelicans?
Mm-hmm.
I tell you guys I want more sides from you prop betting assholes, and I get the Pelicans? Okay.
It's a dart. It's not a full unit bet, but it is a fun dart toss we can walk through.
Okay, nothing for me on this slate. I am taking the entire slate off. I've done well lately, and this slate I cannot get anything on. I'm out. I get to do that every now and again. I'm taking no bets for me. Give me the cap on the Pelicans.
Honestly, it's not a big cap. It is that we have the Atlanta Hawks. You know that's who they're playing, right? The Hawks. The Hawks should not be a 80% favorite against any team in the NBA. To be honest, we have seen them lose to the worst teams over and over and over again. They just are off of this. They did well in the Cup. What a perfect time in a weird. The NBA is weird in general. Betting long money line dogs in situations like this. This Pelicans team, they have, me, resident Murray hater. They've got him back. They've got McCollum back. A couple guys were questionable last game. So if we get one or two back, the Hawks are just not reliable enough to be laying them. It's not actually a minus 400 because there's obviously you have to pay even a little more juice. They shouldn't be laying that big of a number in any game. We have seen them crap the bed against the worst teams in the NBA. The Pelicans just got absolutely run out of the gym against the Knicks today. They're going to be, if they have any sort of pride, kind of like that Portland Trailblazers game where Chauncey called them out, like if you sleep well after this, sometimes after those massive, massive losses against a Hawks team that lays eggs consistently. Again, it's not a full unit play. It's a fun little dart toss. Pelicans on the road in Atlanta. Little revenge for DeJounte Murray against me and his former employers. Plus 400. I couldn't not take that.
So I bet the Cavs versus the Hawks the first time. And then they played him again.
Yeah, that was
stakes
insane.
on the line. And I looked at the spot where I was like, oh, duplex revenge. I was like, what are teams in this spot? Oh, they're like 70%. Let's go. They lost outright to him again. I go for walks every night with my wife. And usually the NBA stats that I say, she's like, okay. So like, the things we have to do this week, the actual things in life. But I told her the stat and she stopped cold. It's not really a stat. It's just like a fact. I said, the Atlanta Hawks have beaten the Boston Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers. And she's like, yeah, I thought that was weird. I was like, they also lost twice to the Washington Wizards. And she was like, that's crazy. And I was like, guess how many wins the Wizards have? And she's like, can't be many. She's like, 5? I was like, 2.
It's insane.
The Hawks gave them the only wins on their season and then beat the Celtics and the Cavaliers twice. I will not go near the Hawks for the rest of the season. I'm done.
This is the exact time you want to go near it. A plus 400.
Can't.
Jim's
it is. It's actually, and it's just moved while we were talking. It's plus 430 now at Caesars.
Remember when I said the Trae Young 110-1 for Cup MVP was maybe worthwhile a couple weeks ago?
Dead numbers nightly. All right. You also like Dennis Schroeder. What's the prop for Dennis Schroeder versus the Bulls?
Yeah, so Schroeder has really his usage, his field goal attempts have all gone up with Cam Thomas out. Now he gets to go against the Chicago Bulls defense that is just horrendous. They're second worst defense in the league, and they play at the fastest pace. So they're an incredible team to bet against. For guards, especially, guards really tear up the Bulls. This number was 18.5 against the Magic today for Schroeder. He was able to cross that in what was a really tough matchup, mostly because he got 19 shots up. So this is one of those where he's just going to have the ball a lot against a really bad defense in a very fast-paced game. I believe that this is Joe and I have taken to doing this on these Monday pods because when we release them, they don't have the number. He was 18.5 against Orlando. He was 19.5 the game before against Phoenix. I could see it being up around 21.5, but I would bet this all the way up to over 23.5. I really think Schroeder's going to have a monster game against Chicago. They just give up monster game after monster game to these opposing guards. It's one of these where you're picking the spot and the projection is going to, be what it is, but it's like against Chicago, fast paced, bad defense, guards tear them up. I'm going to probably like this unless they really go crazy, which we have had in the past. They do tend to sniff out some of these spots, but I think Schroeder points in general is going to be a really good look for Monday.
If I did play something, I was going to play Nets. So
yeah.
Maybe I'll bet Nets Pelicans on a money line
parlay.
And we'll see where we get to. The Los Angeles Lakers are taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. I lean pretty heavily here to the Lakers plus 6.5. J Money has already bet the Wolves, so I am going to go ahead and pass on this. I am kind of curious. I mean, Davis destroyed Rudy Gobert in the first matchup. Yeah. I am finding all sorts of ways to fade this Wolves team right now. I've seen them twice on NBA Bet Stream up close and personal, which, by the way, we'll be doing another NBA Bet Stream on Wednesday on League Pass. Be on the lookout for that. Celtics Pistons, I'm pretty sure. But Joe, you like Davis to smash even with Rudy Gobert on the floor again.
Yeah, I mean, this has just been an atrociously bad matchup for Gobert. Aside from the one game, I think AD got hurt. Like it was like an eye injury last year because he's got he's probably the player that's gotten the most eye injuries out of anybody that I've ever watched. But aside from that game, 36, 33, 31, 38, 38. Those are his last games against Rudy Gobert. They just feed the ball to him. And like as good as Gobert is, the biggest thing is that Anthony Davis can score from anywhere on the floor. And it creates like this huge issue for Minnesota. And I think the other thing is with the new personnel that Minnesota has with, DiVincenzo, Julius Randle, like whatever, it hasn't really worked out that well aside from maybe saving the owners some money. That's really the best that it's done. So this is not a good matchup for them. The Lakers, I think, are going to want to be coming out firing. They obviously just lost their last game to the Thunder in like an important kind of cup game. Gonna kind of want to bounce back a little bit here. This is not a good spot for Minnesota. I think Anthony Davis can have a great game. So I like really any number that's under 30 for him to go over.
You think he plays?
I don't see why not, right? I mean,
this year he's been pretty good about it.
I think he maybe wants one of these awards. So
I'm always nervous. I know he smashes this matchup, and so I will definitely not go the other way. But like, he doesn't tend to consistently do well when he's facing somebody with size. Like Davis wants to bully little people. That's what he wants to do.
I think the thing about Gobert is like Gobert is one of those players that has size, but there's no like density to him. Like as a thick boy over here, Gobert is not like the thickest guy. He's a big guy. He's tall, but he's not the thickest. He's not the biggest guy. Like he's not like the biggest center that you could face. So I think this is a particular matchup for Anthony Davis, given his size, his athleticism, his ability to stretch the floor. I think it's a good spot for him, and he's shown that over the past couple of seasons.
Well, and Matt, speaking of wanting to bully, he definitely wants to bully Gobert. We heard that quote after the last game about the real DPOI. So
yeah,
that's true.
He scores on him. It's anyway. Last thing I want to kind of note here: Celtics and Heat. So this is Celtics minus 9.5, and if I don't adjust at all for home court, then I get to this number and it's fine. But the Celtics are 3-6 against the spread this season at minus 2.4 ATS. That's their ATS margin, is they're minus 2.4 against the spread. And if we look at like the comparison of what their overall numbers are, so their overall point differential, this is just per game plus minus, not per 100 possessions. Their overall for the season, they're 7.9. I'm sorry, they're 10.6. At home, they're only 7.9. So they're 2.7 points worse at home. And they're minus 2.4 ATS at home. And it's been like a weird trend. Sean Grant, who does our radio calls, like pointed it out. And so that got me kind of looking at these type of things. If I could trust Miami to play, I would really like Miami in this spot at 9.5. It's a ton of points. The problem is that every time I take these kind of spots with Miami, they're like, oh, nope, sitting half the guys, nope, oh, nope, Jimmy Butler's out, nope, Bam Adebayo's got a bad ankle, up, Tyler Hero's got a wrist. I can't. they're not the Sixers where they're unbettable, but the Heat are definitely like in the range of I better feel awesome about it. Like there better not be any hiccups on the way.
It's been hard to figure out when Jimmy's motivated this year.
Yeah. But I will just say that I was talking about this with Raheem and Brandon in a text chat about how much everyone says that's too many points without ever actually saying what they think the line should be. It's too many points. I do think that this should be probably closer to like 6 is where I would probably put it.
I have this at Miami plus 8.
Yeah, I would go higher. 7.5. I would probably have a 7.5 with how bad Boston's been at home. I'm not saying that this should be like close. The Celtics still have to be favored, but like 9.5 is just a lot for a pretty good Heat team.
Boston's also just bad against the spread. They're 1-4 in their last 5 against the spread. Yeah. So,
like I said, I lean Lakers and I lean Heat and I lean Nets, but I can't find these spots here are bad because of the cup. They're having these teams play on back-to-backs, and they're not going to play on Tuesday. Yeah. It's a small slate, so I'm staying away. But if you want best bets, Joe's likes Anthony Davis over any number you're going to get, but below 30 for him on points. Jim Turvey likes Dennis Schroeder over. Give me the number again.
Up to 23.5.
Up to 23.5, and the New Orleans Pelicans on the money line for just a little sprinkle, a little pinch, a pinch. It's going to do it for Buckets. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you guys being with us. Sean Little, J Money tomorrow night on Cash Only. And then we'll be back after the Cup to talk where we see those futures at, as well as all sorts of stuff. Make sure to follow us on YouTube at youtube.com/The Action Network. Give us a 5-star review. Follow Jim Turvey on Twitter at TurveyBets. And in the Action Network app, follow Joe Dellera on Twitter and in the Action Network app at Joe Dellera. Make sure to check out the Cash That podcast. We'll see you guys again next time. Thanks to David Payne, our producer, Bridie, and the crew getting us up on youtube.com/The Action Network. Till next time, let's get buckets.